All right. Locomotion episode 10, Smiley Isley. All right, we know the drill. Pause the game, change my face, change the colors. Increase my available budget from 540,000. We're going to bump that up to the maximum. And we're going to bump it up a couple times. Like I said previously, just because it stops once doesn't mean that it's going to stop. It won't stop again. So I think I ended up getting an extra $160,000 just by doing that one trick. So this particular episode, or this challenge, we have to achieve a performance index of 30% by the end of the year 1979. So we have 10 years to complete this task. And this particular map, this challenge is really, really rough. It took me a couple of goes to try and figure out exactly what I needed to do in order to achieve the 30%. It's tough because not only do we have a tough terrain here, you can see how everything is kind of been built up elevation wise, but we also have competitors that love to come in and start taking material away from your sources. So here what we've got is a paper mill. I think it's a paper mill. And right now what I'm doing, I'm just kind of gauging the terrain and trying to figure out the best balance to create a 4x12 platform at this paper mill. So I'm going to do a little bit of terrain editing. I probably actually could have set this platform. Oh, sorry. You would think that I would actually set this platform at the same elevation as the top of the water, but as you'll see later on, about halfway through this game, you'll see why. It's actually set above a little bit higher than the water by 5 meters. So, as I said before, this one was a real tough one to figure out. And actually, this is also one of the very first maps that I started to utilize boats. And the only reason why I'm using boats is because there happens to be I forget what it's called, a tree farm nearby, just on the other side of this body of water. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create a ship port, and we're going to attach it to the train station. We always want to try and attach these things as much as possible so that they can share resources and share deliveries in and out of whatever facility that they're attached to. So here is the other forest. So I'm going to create another dock, and now we're going to put in some ships. I'm fully expecting that these ships will operate at a loss. So what we're going to do is we're going to accept a full load of lumber, and it's going to go to the paper mill here. Full load of lumber, go to the paper mill, and I forgot to actually tell it to... Oh wait, no, I don't have to tell it to unload at the paper mill. It's going to do it anyways, because that paper mill will accept lumber from both the trees and from the trains and the ships that I'm putting out there. So I'm adding a second ship to the circuit, and we're just going to basically let these two ships run back and forth for a little while. So I'm going to complete this platform. Again, they're 12 long. And then we're going to connect this to some of the nearby forests. There's probably other ways of actually doing this particular challenge. I don't know what to say. I've tried a couple times, or a couple of different ways, and I was able to not only complete this once, this particular way, but actually a couple times as well, just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. So here we are, we're at the forest that happens to be nearby, and we're going to create a double platform that again is 12 long. And as you can see, because we're in the 1970s, even though we have, you know, $2.2 million at the start, we're already halfway through that budget, and we basically haven't done anything. So money on this episode does become, or this scenario does become, a little bit of an issue. I found myself to be constantly either making money or I'm borrowing money, and I'm paying off my loan all throughout the 10 years because everything is so expensive. And there is one point in this challenge where I was able to successfully turn so much of a profit that I didn't actually have to worry about the loan repayments or the loan at all. But about 3/4 of this challenge is spent managing money, because you may end up, it may look like you have a lot of money, but everything costs so much because it's in the 1970s. The trains, all the infrastructure, everything's very expensive. And I'm fully aware that there's probably more efficient ways of laying down this track. Again, I'm just trying to keep things on as level as possible and as straight as possible, so that the trains can be as efficient as possible to get in and out of, you know, wherever the source materials are to their destination. So we're just going to connect this first circuit, and you can already tell, you know, I'm already in a world of hurt in terms of money. I think at this point I probably should have put a train down just to start pulling material away from that forest, but I didn't. And you can see just how slow ships are. They're only 4 kilometers per hour. So if you're hauling material from a really far away source via ship, it could take a month game time to arrive at its destination. And the amount of repayment that you get for moving that amount of material that slowly is actually not a lot. So I tend to keep the use of the ships to a very minimum. So we're going to create a train here. We're going to go with one of the cheaper trains, and we're going to put in some flatbed wagons so we can start moving some lumber. And what I did there, I made the train just a little bit too long. We want to make sure that both the train and all the carriages behind the train fit exactly on the platform as much as possible. You don't want anything that's kind of sticking out from the platform, because it will affect your signals that you have immediately outside of your platform. So we gave this one the orders. It's going to wait here at High Jinkston. Yeah, High Jinkston. It's going to wait for a full load of lumber, and it's going to take it to the paper mill. And now we can see the competitors coming in. And they like to build very haphazardly. And that's why I created that platform, a 4x12 platform, right away. If I didn't do that, then the competitors or the CPU players will hamper me from doing what I need to do during the last quarter of this challenge. So I've got 2 empty lanes right now, and you'll see later on what they're going to be used for. So we're moving some lumber around. We have some ships coming in. And the competitors, they're going to start peeling material away from the source, and they're going to, you know, manage it as best they seem fit. And you can see just on that mini map just how far away that they're going to move their materials halfway across that that map in order to find delivery. Now there's a little bit of an issue here, whereas, you know, I've got 2 ships and they take an awfully long time to load up at the dock. So one ship is just basically left spinning around while the other one loads up. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a second dock, and we're going to attach it to the first dock as well. so that both ships can load at the same time without spinning around. And one of the reasons why they're spinning around is because I've got competitors who are actually taking source materials away rather than having it directly dumped over to the ship. And I can see in the upper right corner that that ship is still spinning around. So I probably could have used just one ship rather than having two for that particular circuit, but we'll just leave it as two for now. So this guy seems to be working well, and you can also see the way how the CPU players put down their infrastructure. It's up and down, it's everywhere, it's crazy. So we're going to pay a little bit of a loan off, pay a little bit more of the loan off so I can get, I don't have to pay as much interest. Every month. So this, see, as you can tell, this the CPU players are not very smart. He's already abandoning this plan. He spent all this money on infrastructure and trains, and he's not getting anywhere. He's not pulling in a profit. So he's basically abandoning all that work that the CPU player just did. So I'm sure they're going to start another circuit somewhere else. You don't really have any control over that. You just kind of have to work around them. So what I'm doing here is, okay, so I've got good circuits coming along. I need more money though. It would be nice to have some more money. So if I can join maybe this iron ore mine to this steel mill, that could be a source of quick and easy money. I have $150,000. I might be able to do it. Just checking the elevations, seeing what would work. So let's start laying down some track. I like to put the stations as close to the middle of the industry as possible. It's almost like when you're picking up, when you're setting up trains to pick up passengers and mail, you always want to put the station as close to the city center as possible. If not, if you can't get to the city center without destroying a bunch of buildings and roads and they happen to be in the way, go underground, build some tunnels, and build an underground station. That way, it's going to be as close to the city center as possible. That's where you're going to be able to pick up the most amount of passengers as mail, versus putting it, say, out in the sticks, and you're not going to get a whole hell of a lot of passengers and mail. So I probably could have gone up and over this little hill here rather than doing this ridiculous amount of terraforming. I'm spending money needlessly at this point. It's one of my OCD things that I have with this game. It's like, you know, I like everything to be as straight as possible and as level as possible, but you know, I'm spending what, $6,000, $8,000 per tile to put in this railway track. I could have gone up and over this hill a lot easier. Hell, I could have probably even tunneled through this hill and it would have been cheaper than what it is that I'm doing here. So again, it's my OCD just kicking in. But this line will then basically connect the iron ore mine to the steel mill, and I'm just going to be making money hand over fist. Well, maybe not hand over fist, but it's definitely going to help out quite a bit. And because I'm not delivering coal to that steel mill, that steel mill will pay me for the iron ore that's being delivered, but they themselves will not produce any goods because they don't have the coal. In order to create steel, you need both the iron ore and the coal to be delivered to the steel mill. And if you can only deliver one of those items, then it's not going to produce goods, which is great for challenges like this, whereas your success in the challenge is going to be dependent on how well you move goods. And if you've got a bunch of goods that are being produced and they're waiting on the train platform and they're not going anywhere, that's going to hurt your approval rating. So right now my approval rating is around 12%, nowhere close to the 30 that I need. And the majority of the problem is that I've got goods now waiting at that paper mill that are just basically dying on the platform. So I need to find a way to move those that paper to some sort of a destination. And like I said earlier, the last quarter of this game is going to be based on successfully moving that material to a paper mill that is actually pretty far away. So anyways, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. First thing we got to do is we need to finish this connection before anything else. And by doing so, this is going to help me get a little bit more income. Alright, so we're going to do a 12 long station here and a 12 long station at the iron ore mine. I really like the toggle where you can toggle the transparency on and off. I forget which function key it is. It's been a while since I played this game, but I really like that. I like the fact that it doesn't toggle the entire map. It actually only toggles the lower half of the map to be more transparent than the upper half. So you're not constantly toggling the transparency on and off. You can just quickly scroll down the map just slightly in order to see what's going on, and then you can just scroll right back up, and the buildings and the trees will then be more transparent than they were previously. So what we're doing here, we're just kind of waiting. We're burning off some time. I need some money coming in so that I can get some wagons. So we're just going to give this train its orders, and we're basically going to send it on its way. It probably needs about 3 or 4 more wagons. Oh, bankruptcy warning. Oh, that's trouble. That's okay. Don't worry about it. That's just the first warning. You can see that first train is making $40,000 monthly profit. That's great. Just going to speed this up a little bit. Now we're going to finish adding the wagons to this train. There we go. Now it's going to sit on the platform as full as possible. And we're just basically going to forget train 2. So train 1 is working great. Train 2 is going to be working great. But our performance index is only 14%. That's not good. So we need to figure this out. So I got about 7 years now to complete this. So the only real way that I found to complete this is to actually bring in more lumber to the paper mill so it creates more goods. So you can see here you got someone coming in, taking material away from my forest here. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this station into an intermediary station. And we're going to run a couple branches or circuits from the station to other nearby forests. So they can just basically dump all that material onto this intermediary station, and then the trains here can then move that or complete that circuit so that the materials move to the destination they're supposed to. So right now we're just kind of surveying the land. We're seeing, okay, where's the next closest forest that I can tap into. So I think what we're going to do is just going to go straight up. Again, we don't have a lot of money here, so we're just going to wait this out. I'm going to do a little bit of terraforming. Anyway, so while we're waiting on that, I think what I'll do, I'll just explain what's going on with these particular videos. About 2 years ago, I did the first 30 episodes or 30 challenges in Locomotion, and I had them all captured. And for whatever reason, over the last couple of years, I lost all the episodes or all the challenges except for the first 10, or I think it was the first 10 I still had. And that's what happens, you know, with these things. You just lose track. I never got around to actually uploading them onto YouTube until now. My computer is really taking a hit performance-wise because I've got all these raw data or raw videos on my PC, and I gotta get rid of them. So it's either I permanently get rid of them, or I see what happens if I get around to uploading them onto YouTube. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to upload the first 10, see how that goes. If anybody wants me to continue this series, I can go back and replay those levels and recapture them, and then possibly re-upload them onto my channel. We'll see. If I'm not getting any views and no one actually gives a shit, I'm not going to bother. It's just you know, I've got other ideas of videos that I want to put up. I just want to clear this out so that my computer is not going to be bogged down as it is currently with all these raw videos just taking up space. So we're going to give these orders for these trains to basically just pick up lumber at one station, and we're going to force it to unload at this middle station here at High Jinkston Station. And what that's going to do is going to flood that platform with more lumber, and then that one train can carry that lumber down to the paper mill and complete. It's going to end up making money, and it's going to make more money than the money that is spent on this secondary, I don't know what you want to call it, a spur? I don't know. So I've got 2 boats here that are basically operating at a loss. I probably could reduce that down to 1. I've got 1 train here at High Jinkston West. He's going to be operating at a loss, which is fine. Sometimes that just happens. And we're going to take a look at High Jinkston, and now we can see, okay, so we've got like 40 tons of lumber that are waiting. That's okay. Eventually what we'll do is that we're going to tap into yet another lumber mill right here, right in the middle of the screen, and we're going to attach that as well. It doesn't help that, you know, these competitors are pulling material from the same lumber mill. It's basically half of the source material from there is going to their circuits, and the other half are you know, they're going to mine. So here we go. What we're going to do here, we're in the last 3 quarters or last quarter or whatever, last quarter of the game. So now we're going to see, so what we've got on this platform, we've got a shit ton of paper that needs to be moved, and the only thing that's going to take paper are printing mills. So the closest printing mill here is actually really far away. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create a new circuit that's going to join this paper mill to the printing mill, or the I forget what it's called, the printing office or something. We'll find out later. Anyways, again, it's been 2 years since I played this. So you can see just how far away we're going. This is going to take quite a lot. This is going to be a heavy investment in order to complete this circuit. But once we complete this, that's going to get the goods off of the paper mill platform, and we're going to get a ton of money delivering these goods. And it will all be completed by the end of 1979. So we're just checking this platform, making sure that everything seems to be working out all right. Nothing's not working, so that's good. And I had first originally set this train track to be one directional only. I started thinking about it and I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to have enough money soon enough to create two tracks, one for incoming and one outgoing. So I think temporarily I'm going to have this both as incoming and outgoing, and we're just going to put one train on it. If we put two trains on this run, the trains are going to get caught between the signals, and it's just the computer's going to get confused. It's not going to know what to do. You can't avoid that by just having one set of signals at either station, either end of the station. But because I'm putting in these intermediary signals, you're limited to basically just one train. Unless you build a siding, which I never got around to doing. So we're about halfway through the challenge. We're only at 15% acceptance rate or performance rate. That's not good. And here I just need to go and attach or complete this line underneath these windmills. We're not actually going to use those windmills. Those windmills don't take paper. We're looking for a printing, was it printing mill, I think? Or a printing, I don't know. I forget what it's called. Anyways, so we're actually going to go underneath those windmills. We're going to go underneath the city where the printing house is, and that is where the station's going to go. But again, this is a huge investment because we're basically going right across all this water. And like I said, there's probably other ways of, completing this challenge. It's just, this seemed to work best for me. And I didn't have to manage all sorts of circuits and all sorts of different trains. Although managing trains within a 10-year lifespan is really not all that tough. Trains themselves will probably last anywhere between 15 and 20 years before they require replacement. But like I said earlier, when you get into later stages of these games, say on the 30th challenge, you're managing 50, 60, 70 trains, and what you end up doing is just replacing trains and then replacing more trains and not actually building. This is, like I said earlier, this is probably the roughest part about this game is the train management. I think Transport Tycoon, they had a good idea. It worked well, whereas you would create almost like a maintenance facility off of whatever track is being built, and the trains will automatically go in and renew themselves or replace themselves without you having to interject or act on them at all, which was great. Unfortunately, this game doesn't permit that kind of use. You end up having to manually replace the trains one at a time. It's a huge time suck, and it's just a real buzzkill with this game. Anyway, so we're getting close to this printing house. I forget what it's called. So we're getting close. And once we complete this circuit, this is where things really change. Because now we're going to pull material from that paper mill. We're going to deliver it as goods to here. And it's going to give us a ton of money doing this because it's a huge distance. And the trains are going to be running this circuit really fast. We're just going to make money really easy, really quickly. And you can see how that competitor is actually delivering lumber to the paper mill. but they're not pulling material away. So their performance index is not all that great either. But the more lumber that they provide that paper mill, and they don't do anything with the goods, the computer is actually smart enough to divert those goods to a company who has the capability to move them more effectively. So I'm benefiting from them delivering the lumber to the paper mill. I'm not getting paid for that, but I will take the goods that are being produced because of that, and I will deliver them, which is great. So we're just double checking. We're going to make sure that everything is working great. And you're definitely going to see when I start to make money, because I have to complete this circuit. Right now there's only one line that's going there. I need to complete this circuit. You're going to see how quickly completing the circuit goes. Alright, done. So we're moving material. I just made almost $300,000 off of that. And here comes another 300, and another 300,000. Look, I'm at $1 million already in the bank. So this is where things really start to pick up. My performance index is only at 10% now, but don't worry, that's going to change. So I'm going to complete this circuit by adding a second track. I'm going to put more trains on this circuit. We're going to put more material away from that, from the paper mill over to the printing house. So we got 3 years to complete this. I'm at 26% approval rating already, or performance rating. So that's really, really good. We're making good progress here. So we're going to add a switch yard in front, or a crossover, or however you want to call it. And we're going to create dedicated incoming and outgoing lines. Just trying to figure out the directions, making sure that nothing's messed up, making sure that the signals are pointing in the correct direction. It's really easy to lose track of those little green arrows that are on the track. If you're not paying attention, your trains are going to go the wrong way. So you can see, there's nothing waiting at the platform, which is great. It would be nice to create another train. See, just like that, we're at 232 tons of paper that are waiting. That kills your performance rating. You can see how it's already in the yellow. So we should probably put another train down in that circuit. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually join another lumber yard to High Jinkston, and we're just going to pull material from that forest. So we just create more and more goods. We're almost there. We're at 27%. We have 3 years to go. We're almost there. And we're going to get the cheapest train as we can. Because these trains aren't going to be making money, so we'll try and keep them as cheap as possible to operate. We're going to give it the orders to pick up all the lumber here and force it to unload the lumber at High Jinkston. By doing so, that's going to create a glut of stuff at the platform at High Jinkston, so we might as well get some really powerful locomotives to deliver this material to the paper mill. Now you're probably wondering, well, what difference does it make in terms of the locomotives? Well, because there's an elevation change as you get in and out of the paper mill, you see that huge change in elevation. The more powerful engine that you have, the faster and more efficiently it's going to go up and down that hill. So we're going to create a second train for this particular circuit that's going to take it to the printing house. And while we're here, we might as well remove the train on this circuit and replace it with something a little bit faster. The more material you move in the least amount of time will maximize the amount of money that you get for this. That's why ships are no good, because they move really, really slowly. And on the other side with airplanes, they move really fast, but they move very little material. Look at that, we're at $1.3 million, just like that. Going to copy the orders for this new train and send it on its way. I think that pretty much does it. Oh yes, we have completed this challenge.